Hi, my name is Kayte Thomas, and I'm a PhD student at Baylor University, and I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about a program that I designed and have helped to implement at a local community college called the Bridges program. And I hope that by the time I'm done explaining it to you a little bit, you're just as excited about it as I am and would like to implement it on your own campuses as well. So let's get started. Bridges stands for Building Refugee Initiatives to Develop Goals for Educational Success. Only 1% of refugee learners have access to college education compared to 38% of their non-refugee immigrant peers. Access to education for refugee learners is therefore a matter of social justice. This program is called the Bridges program because it acts as a bridge between the end of high school and the beginning of college for these students, where there often is a gap where their educational career pathways drop off. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background and some of the inspiration for this. So during my doctoral coursework, there was a leadership and administration in social work class, and we were tasked with creating an innovation assignment either at our place of employment or throughout the greater society and community where we are. I have a history of working in refugee resettlement. When I was working on my bachelor's degree, I had an internship at a local refugee resettlement agency, which later turned into employment for me. I was a job developer. And then I continued on with my master's degree. I also did an internship at the same location while I was working, and my master's capstone was on rapid employment with refugees through the match grant program that we have here. And during all of these years of experience, there was repeated concern with access to higher education by those that I was working with. And this was a really common theme of not being able to meet their college goals, not necessarily because they weren't capable, but because there were a lot of barriers. And so like any diligent doctoral student, I went into the research and said, well, is this something that I was only noticing in the population that I was serving? Or is this a common experience? And it turns out that this is a common experience, not only in the US, but across the world. And this really is an issue where there's a large barrier to higher education for this population. So this is a research-based design. It's not evidence-based yet, but I hope that one day, if enough colleges and universities implement it, that there will be some studies on if it's working to bridge that gap or not. And there's 3 theories that formed the program design. That was Adriana KEZAR's How Colleges Change, Bowlman and Deal's 4 Frames of Leadership, and Daniel Wheeler's Service Leadership Model. And we'll talk about those in a minute. This program was initially designed for a local community college, in part because I have a great love of community colleges. I think that they are wonderfully positioned to be agents of change in the community, and they allow access to some really great educational experiences. And I wanted to target one of those as a place to start. It is also being implemented, I believe, next semester at some university systems in Philadelphia. So that's really exciting too. So what is the Bridges program? Well, first of all, it's applicable to any college setting. It's very versatile. It's a 10-hour mentorship experience between a junior or senior high school student with refugee status or the child of a parent who has refugee status with a college student who then acts as a mentor for them. This is also applicable to asylees and unaccompanied minors. They're able to access this program as well. And they're given an activity checklist to complete together over their 10 hours of mentorship, which then prepares the high school student for the college experience. It goes over enrollment and campus orientation, classroom expectations, cultural norms, and other aspects as well. There is a built-in survey to assess college comprehension changes and areas of improvement for the program in the future. It's very low cost, and there really is a very high return from it. Mentors are able to receive a seal of distinction on their diploma at graduation for engaging in service learning, and high school students can note that they participated in this program on their college entrance application if they choose to apply afterwards. Recruitment is done through the college itself, public high schools, local refugee resettlement agencies, and word of mouth. I do want to talk a little bit about the theories that informed this, because I think that that's important to understand. So let's start a little bit with Adriana KEZAR's social cognition theory. That really looks at the college and university setting within society at large, so not just the institution on its own, and notes that organizations change as society evolves. So what that means is that this current influx of refugees that we're seeing means that colleges and universities need to adapt to their needs. It also acknowledges that there may be policy restrictions or allowances that can impact academic responses, but that even though we're looking at institutional change, this is really driven by the individuals at that person-to-person level. So in terms of our Bridges model, that means that the mentee and mentor relationship, the high school student and the college student relationship, really is key. That's paramount to this being successful. It's a reactionary model, which means that there's regular incorporation of feedback and continuous change. And in her theory, she calls this sense-making and organizational learning. So as there's ongoing feedback from participants in the program, you're really making sense of what their experiences, what their needs are, and then incorporating that into your organizational model to change and respond. Coupled with that is Daniel Wheeler's service leadership model, and that really has 4 components. That's service to others, creating systemic supports, engaging future leaders, and leaving a societal legacy. And I think those things are all important to consider as you're learning about the Bridges program. I do want to take a bit of a look at Bowlman and Deal's 4 frames of leadership. So there are 4 frames, of course, to consider with this. Those are the symbolic, political, human resources, and structural frames. And within each one of those, there was special consideration given to this program. So the symbolic means that this meets organizational aspirations in terms of the goals of the colleges and universities. It aligns with mission statements, certainly the mission statement of Wake Tech Community College where this was first implemented, but I'm sure that it will align with the mission statements of many different academic institutions. It aims to provide culturally competent education to improve the success of individuals in the community. Most notably, of course, are youth with refugee status who are going on to learn in higher education settings. It's a tangible path for them to improve college success and also elevates the college as a symbol of hope to others. In the political frame, it notes that this program benefits both the college and the community, and mentees are gaining insight into the college processes, and this is really breaking down systemic barriers, which is important. It's improved diversity in student body, and there's an aspect of social justice to engaging in this program. From the human resources frame, the Bridges program aligns with the needs both of people and of organizations. So for our refugee students, their needs are to be able to access educational pathways. For the college and university, they want to reach a broader segment of the population, and really this maintains a competitive edge for the academic institution. From the structural frame, this program is really seeking to transform society itself. For the mentees, it transforms their lives through educational access. For the mentors, it transforms their understanding and professional practices going forwards. For the college, it transforms their position in society and creates a broader support base. And for society, it's hopefully going to transform the perspective towards refugee learners into a more positive one. So let me tell you a little bit about the rationale when I started creating this program. First, of course, I went and analyzed the data, and research really notes that there's a gap in post-secondary education for refugees. And it's a very large gap. As I mentioned earlier, only 1% go on to access higher education. In qualitative interviews that I found, refugees expressed confusion with the college process. Some dropped out because they weren't able to navigate it, and some weren't able to even engage in the first place. And those that were interviewed recommended peer mentorship. They said that that was something that would work for them. Continuing education is noted as acting as both a stabilizing and an uplifting factor. The difference between immigrants and refugees is often overlooked in college campus policies, and that creates problems. It's a way for these learners to then slip through the cracks because there are some substantial differences between refugees and immigrants in terms of everything ranging from trauma experience to learning styles, access to previous education, income levels, home stability, and more. So when I chose Wake Tech, that's the local community college here in North Carolina, there were other options available, but they were already assisting with degree and credit translation and had refugee engagement through their English as a second language program. So it seemed like a bit of a natural fit to try a program there. Plus, it was in a good physical position within the community in terms of access to transportation, ease of availability. And this program really builds upon existing structures that are already in academia, such as having a service learning component. The impact of this that I'm hoping is that this will be improving knowledge and employment opportunities for our refugee learners. There will be greater levels of self-efficacy and life satisfaction as a result, and socioeconomic benefits to the entire family. There will also be positive mental health benefits, and research really does note that access to education also improves mental health and wellness. One of the things that I found most interesting in the research that I read was that access to higher education also acts as a peace initiative. And, you know, there's a common misconception that refugees may be radicals or terrorists, and there's not a lot of basis in that. But there is some indication that education de-radicalizes others. So if there's a concern for that, an easy way to address that is by providing access to education for this population. This also elevates the college then as a leader in refugee education if they're going to adopt the Bridges program, because that shows that they're really taking initiative and concern for outcomes. There is continued analysis, feedback, and improvement for dynamic change incorporated within the Bridges program. And it really is a replicable model at low cost. And so I think that makes it very easy to adopt at any academic setting. One of the wonderful things is that this changes the perception of refugees from needy to capable. It really is an empowerment model, and I think that matters. Something that helps with success is having a good partnership with your local refugee resettlement agency. They're able to identify and connect you with high school students who would benefit from this opportunity. They can be wonderful resources for cultural competency training, both for the college advisors and people engaging in this program, and for the college students, the mentors. They're able to give insight into opportunities and challenges to cover via this program. Often one of the things that we know is that based on different cultural expectations, some refugee students may not feel that it's appropriate to give direct feedback, and so they will often give feedback to their caseworkers at the resettlement agency, and that can then be passed on as well. And then from that, there can be suggestions for programmatic changes or additions. In the case of our local resettlement agency, they were able to complete some background checks for the student mentors, and that was really beneficial. And we'll talk about that more in just a moment. But they're able to support when questions arise beyond the scope of the program goals or beyond the cultural knowledge of the people at the academic setting. And they're also able to provide translation services if needed. So it is wise to have a good partnership with your local resettlement agency. I do want to talk a little bit about some ethical and legal concerns. So I'm a social worker, and some of our core values direct us to be obligated to promote welfare on national and international levels. And that's something that this program really seeks to do. It supports those who are vulnerable, which of course is a key consideration for social workers, and seeks not only to even out inequality, but to create equity, which really is a different concept. And this is a program that focuses on creating equity. It's important that when you're pairing up your mentors and your mentees, if possible, to have same-gendered support, because that's often most culturally appropriate. Translation may be needed, and again, that's where those refugee resettlement agencies can come in handy, because they often have translators available in a variety of languages, and that can be very beneficial. Background checks are necessary because you're dealing with high school students. This often means that you're dealing with minors, and you want to make sure that they're protected. So any of your college students who want to engage as a mentor also need to be background checked for safety. All activities are completed on campus, so this reduces some of the legal concerns for the college or university. There's no transportation of participants and no off-campus activities. So what are the activities exactly? Well, we start off with some training for the mentors so that they're able to have a greater level of cultural competency, and this is done in conjunction with our refugee resettlement caseworkers, because they have a great deal of knowledge in that area. After they've completed their training, they go on to meet your match, and mentors and mentees really are matched up with CARE. And in their first meeting together, they'll talk about the high school students' priorities, their goals, what they're hoping to accomplish out of that program, so that they are able to tailor it a little bit. They'll have a campus tour where they will identify resources, talk about cultural norms, things like what to do if you need an extension on an assignment, things like what to do if you're late to class, how you can find makeup work, how you can ask your peers for support and guidance, policies and procedures in terms of turning in late work, grades, things like that. And they're also going to model faculty interactions. They're going to take our high school students and they're going to find a faculty member and demonstrate what it looks like when you have questions or concerns so that they're able to see that in an interactive way. They're also going to talk about application and financial concerns, where to find the financial aid office, what to do about scholarships, maybe work studies, how to apply. They're going to sit with them and show them forms and the application process. They're going to explain the difference between credit courses and continuing education courses. They're also going to talk about college life. They're going to talk about how to select courses within your desired degree, where to find your academic advisors, where the bookstore is, where the cafeteria is, and all of the cool hangouts so that our high school students really feel like they can come into campus and sort of fit in with everybody right away. After they've completed their 10 hours of time together, they're going to review everything that they've learned. They're going to retake the final survey to see if there's been any changes. They're going to talk about goals going forwards. Does the high school student want to apply? How can they be of support from here? And they're going to have a celebration because really this was a great accomplishment that they've done together. And we do hope that our mentors and mentees, they're able to stay in touch going forwards if they would like to as well. So how do we assess for change and what change do we expect to come with this program? There's a survey administered to participants, both pre and post experience. It's quick, it's less than 10 questions. And there's oral feedback received from mentors, and that's incorporated as well in terms of how they felt their experience went. This can then turn into programmatic changes if there's something that's a need that we might have missed. Which also increase diversity in enrollment for the college or university as these students start to apply, which of course we hope that they do apply after engaging in the Bridges program. There are some financial gains for the college as they have access to a new population. But really there's creation of shared meaning between the participants, the college, and the community. And that's where there really is some transformation because now everybody is focused on creating this new goal together. And I think that's important as well. There's some wonderful implications for pedagogical standards, though. We're incorporating more diverse teaching styles into the classroom. We're accommodating different learning styles. We're adding in a level of cultural competency that isn't always there right now. And over time, there can be structural changes to society. What happens when our refugee learner peers have equitable access to education and career pathways? I think that looks like a beautiful thing in society, and I think this can have a lot of positive change as well. It is expected that there's going to be some resistance, and so I think it's important to talk about that and acknowledge ways to address that. So there can be resistance from community members, especially those who hold racist or xenophobic attitudes. There can be some resistance within the college or university as well from program directors or academic administrators, especially if there's funding issues or if it's challenging to create a new program. One of the things that I ran into was the college setting really said, well, you know, we already have somebody there who is available to help our immigrant students. What's the difference? And so some of that looks like educating them on the differences between immigrants and refugees and why that's not comprehensive enough. There can be a little bit of animosity from high school peers and some of the college students as well, because there is a refugee-specific pathway. They may not understand why there's a need for that. The refugee students themselves may initially feel distrustful or concerned about the mentors and their interactions, and some of that is really justifiable. You know, research goes and shows that there is often a lot of abuse from caseworkers or people who are designated as helping individuals in the refugee camps and along the journey that they've been here. So I think it's understandable that some of them may be a little bit nervous at first. And those who have similar demographics, so people who came over as a refugee who, may have come later in their years when they're not a high school student. They may not understand why they're not able to engage in this program. And with all of these factors, education is key. Having a discussion about why this program is geared towards the population that it is. And again, it's only for high school juniors and seniors who are either refugees themselves or children of refugees, or of course asylees or unaccompanied minors. And it's targeting that because that is where the greatest amount of change is likely to happen. That does not mean that there can't be other programs for other learners, but this program is designed for them. What are some strengths and limitations of this program? So let's talk about the strengths first. The Bridges program is easy to implement, it's low cost, there's a wonderful return on investment, it builds up cultural competency, it has potential to change teaching methods and the society at large. Over time, this really, my hope is that it could grow into a full course where college students take an academic class on different types of cultural competency, maybe on refugee issues, and then go on to engage and mentor high school students. This can contribute to research and best practices that can impact colleges and universities across the globe. And it's transformative and synergistic in nature. Some of the limitations, though, are there's often low staff hours. Sometimes colleges and universities are already stretched, and this is asking them to do something else. There might be resistance from the community. The idea of having a course instead of just a service learning pathway was initially rejected by the college that I spoke with because there was low buy-in and understanding of the needs and benefits. So I think this is something that may just come over time. It involves minors on campus. So again, you have to be cautious with legal and ethical concerns. And college students may choose to give their service elsewhere. High school students may not want to disclose their refugee status in order to apply. So that can limit as well. And it has the potential to change teaching methods, and this is purposefully in both strengths and limitations because some of the college professors may be a little resistant to changing their teaching methods. I would argue that it's a positive thing though to try to do that. And our surveys in the Bridges program relies on self-reported data to assess. So there's a little bit of selection bias in there as well, and some concerns with that. So what did our first implementation look like? That just occurred in spring of 2020 at Wake Tech Community College in Raleigh, North Carolina. There was excellent interest, but unfortunately, of course, COVID-19 happened. We ended up having 7 pairs of mentors and mentees who completed all of the activities. All 7 high school students completed the pre-surveys, but only 4 completed the post-surveys. So we had 4 sets of completed ones to look at. Overall, there was increase in knowledge of the college process, and they were very happy with the experience. One student, though, showed a decrease in comfort levels in certain areas in terms of things like how to enroll in college and how to access some things on campus, and a desire to attend. But was increased, the desire to attend was increased. And I thought a little bit about that. And this would be an instance where if it wasn't the pandemic right now, I would really want to have a follow-up call with that student to get some qualitative feedback on that as well. There's 2 things that I thought of. It could have been a mismatch in pairs to where the communication style just didn't work as well. I don't think that that's what happened though. What I think happened was that this is an instance where our high school student felt overconfident in the process and found that it really was a little trickier than they expected. And that's part of the problem that the research was saying why these students tend to drop out. So, I think that just demonstrates more of a need for this ongoing support. There was feedback that there's a desire to have an acceptance pathway. So some of these students felt that engaging with the program should then be considered for a reason to be accepted into the college. And I think that's valid. One student summed it up very simply and said, "It's really good." And there was positive feedback from resettlement agencies as well. Now, because of the pandemic, we weren't able to get any interviews with our refugee learners, unfortunately, but I do have a response from one of the mentors that I would like to share with you.
Hi, my name is Marissa. This semester, spring 2020, I participated in the Bridges program. I did this through my communications class as a service learning program. As a part of the program, I mentored a local refugee high school student who wanted to attend Wake Tech after she graduated. The program assisted in me being able to practice the communication skills that I was learning in class. I was able to learn about another person's country and experiences, all while assisting the student in everything college related, such as learning how to utilize Wake Tech's websites, how to access financial aid. Although COVID-19 threw us for a loop, it was all just another learning experience. If you are interested in a truly meaningful service learning project that will help you apply your newly learned communication skills, I highly suggest the Bridges program. It was a great learning experience, and in the end, you might even gain a new friend.
I thought that was a really lovely representation of the impact that this program has, and certainly hope to hear from more of both mentors and mentees in the future. So these are some of the sources that I used, and if anybody has any questions, I would really love to answer them, and I'm certainly here to help you implement it at your college or university as well. I can email you a packet with information. If you would like to reach out to me, that's Kayte_Thomas1, so Kayte_THOMAS, the number 1, at Baylor.edu. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I really hope you consider implementing it on your campus as well. Have a wonderful day. Take care.